they remain highly suspicious of journalists. And while journalists remain wary of politicians, they need access to them for information. Between those two pillars lies the Irish electoral system, Irish society, politics of our country, and all the rest of it. Actually, there are very few occasions where you can have an opportunity to mention all of the things that are in this book here, and all in the first 5 minutes, where you've mentioned the Kant and Cicero and all of the famous people, and all they're all in the first 5 minutes. But I'd say it's a tribute, Donnacha, that you write about your little daughter Gaia. Actually, she'd be very suitable for the son of the American ambassador who was born this morning. And weighing at 10 pounds 4 ounces. So
good stock.
Next year. For me, actually, this book illustrates perfectly what politics and political communication have to be all about, and that's the human condition. At the end of the day, politics is always about people. It has to be. Now, this is a book, I suppose, for some who would say this is what dreams are made of. Others, it's for arguments and controversies and rows. You actually need to read this 3 or 4 times and to remember in your own lifetime and your own range of political experience the things that happened. Were to give an interview to the successor to Hot Press in the way that the former Taoiseach did, and mentioned cliffs and throats and no-walls and things like that, I wonder what the reaction would be. Certainly it would probably fill sort of cyberspaces on the social media anyway as to what's happening. I had the occasion in the recent past to launch the biography of T.K. Whittaker, which is a wonderful book and a wonderful man, the person chosen to be the person of the century by the people. I also launched the book on W.G. Cosgrave, Liam Cosgrave's father, who when he spoke himself said, I never thought I'd live to see the day, never mind the book. And when I spoke myself in 49 years ago in Louisburg with the entire national coalition on the platform on a wet evening in the square behind me, including the late Brendan Courage, the late Michael Leary, the late Frank Cluskey, the late Justin Keating, all of them, and the Fine Gael representatives. And before I said my few words, earth-shattering words I might add, the Taoiseach caught me by the elbow and he said, "Don't say too much, they know enough already." So, I mean, I've seen in my own almost 4 decades, very significant changes in the way political communications and indeed politics are conducted. Now, I mean, you look at the front of the book and they're all of their glory, people who have made their mark in one way or another. But like, if you look at the book on the top left-hand corner, you'll see a picture there from 1975, and like, telegrams were the order of the day then, and Twitter was something that you heard in the morning in the trees. So, Mark and Donnacha have done a great job here. Now, what the book doesn't answer, you see, is how does the poor politician actually feel before you go through some of these cataclysmic events? I recall going out to the national broadcasting station RT, the first debate with somebody who came into the Dáil after myself, Bertie Ahern, who was then the teacher. And as I walked down that corridor, what were known as the Drumcondra Mafia were discreetly stationed at different doorways, giving the equivalent of the 1,000-yard stare at some kind of an imposter, attempting to break through the line of political responsibility. And these are things that you have to kind of understand happened, but you can't appreciate that in the words of a book like this. So, like from a political point of view, you know, some of the things that have happened here in the scale of challenge that we've had to deal with, of the warnings about default, of the warnings about the collapse of the euro, the collapse of the European Union, the catastrophic situation of talking to people in their homes where jobs have been lost, immigration rampant, disillusionment, despair, disappointment, and all of that. So you come through that sort of forest or that swamp and emerge on higher ground, and then you begin to deal with the prospect of the communication, the expectations that people may have. So, but there are some things that are important, like the registration of the lobby 2014, and that's an important bill. When I see the scale of spend in other countries, in the recent elections in the United States, the astronomical spend in election campaigns, at least in Ireland, despite our political differences or whatever, it's accurately controlled in the sense that it's monitored and regulated. And I think the lobbying bill in its own way will have an important part to play in the way politics moves, in the way the country is governed and regulated in the time ahead. Obviously, the Freedom of Information Act is another issue here, to open it up, make it more transparent, more accountable in terms of the Beacháin and the financial bodies, the NTMA, the NAM and the NPRF and the NDFA, the Central Bank of Ireland, the refugee agencies, the whole business with the charity sector, the appointment of the regulator and all of these things. The Protected Disclosures Act is one that's important in the sense of current issues about sexual abuse and information related to people who may have been involved in sexual abuse or rape or whatever. So these are things that are important from a government point of view. It's a great piece of work from all of the scribes who are here, and I think that when you get down to it, at the end of the day, when you take all your advisors and whatever they want to call them, gurus or spin doctors or whatever title is floating in the air, at the end of the day, just got to be yourself, because that's what the people are going to judge you. And the more I see of it, the more I realise that, because at the end of that day, it is the people's judgment. It's important, however, that in the broadcasting of these things, and the reporting of these things, that there be both the capacity to respond and the requirement for balance from whatever perspective the broadcaster or the journalist is actually doing their business. But like, it is about excitement. You saw what happened in Scotland in terms of the referendum. First time in years there was real passion in Scottish politics about an issue that really fired up the people. And as we're not going to have an election in 2015, very opportunity to kind of, get it heated up and get people excited about the kind of country that we want to have in the time ahead, and the reporting of that and what it means, so that when that day comes and people have the opportunity to go and cast their vote with Pan Louis, because it'll be still Pan Louis then, like they're going to be able to decide very clearly the kind of society, the kind of country they want to live in. And that's democracy. And the reporting of that and the journalism that goes with it is so important. Yesterday we paid tribute to the late Ted Nealon in Dáil. He joined the Fine Gael party as sort of everything for Gareth Fitzgerald. God rest Ted, he always had sheaves of paper in his hand, and as I said in the Dáil, he was the first I saw with the so-called golf typewriter. All the letters were on a central console, and the letters came out of that by a magical type. And he had an excitement about him in the sense of his interest, both as a journalist and as a broadcaster, about politics and what it meant. And that was about characters, about those who flit across the stage of politics every so often and leave their mark in one way or another. And Brian Farrell, God rest him, who formed that duo that many people have said was the spark that kind of gave them a real interest in, well, what's happening in the country? Who are these people? And they're asking all these questions of the ministers in government, and the black and white television, some of the snowy clouds and all the rest of it, questioning about the shape of some of their heads or whatever it might be. And when you think of those books I mentioned, in Des O'Malley's book recently, and I know Owen is here, and so many others to come, what this is about really it's a tapestry, and they're pageants, and they're sort of they're plays that take place here. Who's right and who's wrong? Well, I often said, you know, you can argue about the decision of the people, but you can never argue with it. Governments have a responsibility to be able to set the agenda, because they have to make decisions, and governments are about making decisions. Commentators will comment on those, whether they believe they're right or wrong, what they've missed or what they haven't missed. And I'd be the first to say that, like everything else in life, we're all human, and it's impossible to get it right from your own perspective all the time. All you can do is hope that, in the greater interest of the country and the people, that you are doing the right thing. I was in Facebook recently, opened their 100,000 square foot extension, and one of the signs inside the door said, "What would you do if you weren't afraid?" Well, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And like, when I see the commentary, let's say for instance this morning I listened to some comments about the Economic Management Council. So just two little bits for you. On Tuesday's meeting, I think we dealt with 24 items at the Cabinet that were not the subject of any discussion at the EMC. And I don't know whether Michael is here or not, Michael McDowell, but anyway, if he's not, he'll probably hear this. He did say that this thing was, not strictly kosher. The point about the Economic Management Council is that people were informed and knew what was happening, rather than wandering aimlessly around the corridors of government buildings as the country was on an inexorable slide towards an economic catastrophe. That couldn't have happened and wouldn't have happened had you an Economic Management Council or its equivalent in place, where people could say, here are warning signs, we need to talk about this, we need to make decisions here. And at the end of the day, the collective responsibility of the Cabinet is to make decisions. So the point about the Economic Management Council is that it is a method of understanding the signals that are coming about the bigger issues of the economy in the country, and if they need to be addressed or looked at, well then it's a purpose. It's a capacity to have information flowing between parties in government or others. I served in the Beacháin government in 96, 94, 97. I was a three-party government, and the opportunity at the time was between what they call the programme managers. And most of the time they'd look at the agenda coming through, and there mightn't be an issue that was going to cause a political problem. And if there was, they'd talk about it. And the Democratic left agree, the Labour Party couldn't get. If they couldn't agree, then the leaders would have a look at that. And if that didn't work, well then you could have withdraw it and come again to find a solution to it. In the absence of that, you have a situation where cabinet meetings could drift for hours and hours because everybody contributed over and over again. So just to say that, in the interests of keeping the country informed on what's happening, it's very important that you have a system to everything with that. But let me just say that it is the cabinet collectively that have to discuss, debate, and sign off on these things when decisions are actually made. Now, they say timing is everything in politics. This is true. This book is coming out at the right time, lads. The economy is improving. Consumer confidence is up. Holidays are being booked abroad. They're fighting in some stores about dollars. They're fighting about other things as well. But I just say that you should go out and put your hand in your pocket and buy this book and read it a second time, and remember then the times you looked at the television and Mr. High handed a sheet of paper across to Gareth Fitzgerald and said, "Sure, there's no heading on that. It's only a bit of paper. These are figures you plucked out of the air or whatever." When we had 3 elections back in 81 and 82 and 82, and Minister Flanagan's here, I remember when every constituency was in hock up to its eyeballs, trying to sell €2 tickets and all the rest of it to fund another election that was coming. Well, if anything, this government has had a hallmark of stability, which has led to confidence, which has led to investment, which has led to jobs, and jobs being created. And now that some flexibility is being available to government, it's time to start a process of a multi-annual giving back, insofar as that's possible, to the hardest pressed sectors of our society. And that's giving a sense of clarity and certainty there. So I think the occasions where in the journalistic world contracts are no longer available to many journalists, it's a do or die effort to get the next story. Therefore, the human nature of the politician comes into play here. Who will talk, who won't talk, who will say one word, how will this be used, will it be given in the context in which it was said, will it, all of these things. I didn't say that, look at the headlines, or whatever. So if you say I didn't say it, well, you deny it then, so that's a different story. And that's the way that life goes on. It's always uncertain, but it creates that sense of excitement and passion about it. And therein lies the seeds and the flowers of our democracy. They're out there in their hundreds of thousands. I hope that many more people will examine the progress that our country makes, and they make their mind up as to what they want for the future. And for me, politicians who are here, the journalists and the media battles that have been fought are lessons. You can only learn some of the things from those lessons because circumstances always change. In fact, I suppose the only constant we have now is change. And the frontiers up ahead are changing so rapidly. Many young people never read a newspaper. It's all the mobile information now, the Facebook, the Twitter, the LinkedIn, all of these access to information platforms that they had. How they're fed on those platforms, in many ways, is the responsibility, first of all, of the political process that put out the messages there, how they're received and dealt with, and oftentimes be the cause of argument and discussion. So I'd like to say, it's a great book, I like it. How we put it together. Sometimes you'd say to yourself, I shouldn't read this all really. But at the end of the day, learn the lesson, kind of be yourself, because they're going to judge you for that anyway, what's and all. With all our shortcomings and failings, it's still a beautiful world, as Durrell said many years ago. So this is another part of the library. It's part of the opportunity to read, to absorb, to understand, and get out there and fight the good fight. And it's not, as Jean Monnet said, it's not us against them. We're actually all on the one side of the table, and our enemies are poverty and ignorance and discrimination and all of these issues that have to be dealt with by those of us who have the responsibility and the opportunity to do something about them. So buy it, read it, and maybe when we meet again on the highways and the byways of Ireland, you can say, page 47. Thanks very much. God bless you all.